Hello everyone, my name is Christina and I'm scoping weekly live about my organic garden located in San Diego, California. And today's show will be about the new rose that I just planted today, about 2 hours ago. I'm quite excited about that. And also about roses. I would like to tour the garden with you and look at the roses that are flowering right now. The rose that you can see behind the pool right now, the little scene, which I think is one of the prettiest in the backyard in the moment, is the hybrid tea rose moonstone. And as you can see, it is blooming quite freely right now. I think it's my top bloomer in the moment. So, but before we get closer and have a look at the blooms, a close-up at the blooms, I just would like to talk about the weather here in San Diego, always very important for every gardener. So it is still very warm and balmy. Today it is 76 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 24 degrees Celsius. So it's very nice and it's relatively humid for San Diego circumstances. And as you might hear over the mic, the wind is just spiffing up a little bit. I hope the sound is not becoming too bad. So, but it's still a very comfortable breeze that we have in the moment. Okay, so then let me take you closer to Moonstone and have a look at this rose and have a look at the beautiful flowers. So while we do that, we pass another rose. This is Pope John Paul II. It's also a hybrid tea rose. And this one actually I didn't get to deadhead. And you see who's in here, kind of, Skylar is peeing. Usually I clean that up with water so that we don't have spots on the grass, but not now because I'm with you guys, so I will do that later. So Skylar is our rescue Doberman and he's always with me in the garden. He really enjoys helping in the garden, especially when we dig or something like that, and when it smells like organic, smells after organic fertilizer. So when he can smell blood meal and stuff like that, that's really his favorite thing. So back to the rose that we are seeing right now here. So this is Pope John Paul II. And you can see the blooms have a wonderful form, wonderful pure white color. They're very, very elegant. And last year I was so lucky I had still flowers from Pope John Paul II for Christmas. They were actually crowning our Christmas dinner table. But let's move on. So we are passing some lamb's ear here, which still look pretty astonishingly good this year. I don't know why. Last year they were really ratty at this time of the year. Not that it was less hot this summer or that we did have more water, so I actually don't know why it is the way it is. So the rose that you are seeing here is Kando's Beauty. I don't know if I pronounce his name right. It's a very beautiful rose when it is in flower, but you see in the moment there are hardly any flowers, and it just makes a lot of blind canes. So what is a blind cane? Let me just see. Let's see if that is a blind cane. Actually, it is a blind cane. So you see there's a long cane, but there's no flower buds. So this cane will not flower. It will just have this long octopus cane, and here's another one. And so what I will do, I will deadhead them and hopefully will get some shorter canes which still carry flower later this year. So an ongoing bloomer in my garden, this is Alstroemeria, Princess Claire, if I'm not mistaken. This is blooming, I think, since the summer for me in my garden. So very nice white flowers. I think right now the snails are having a little bit of a feast, but they are still beautiful. So, but let's move on and let's have a look at the rose that I promised. So this is Moonstone. It's a hybrid tea rose, and you can see the flowers are really almost perfection. And let me just show you or zoom a little bit over the whole bush, and you see there are plenty of flowers, and some, for example, like this, really gorgeous, really beautiful. But there is a catch. The rose has lots of disease problems. So one is rose rust. I don't know if you can see it. I think you do. You see the orange spots on the leaves. So that can get pretty bad with this rose in autumn, and I'm seriously thinking about removing this rose, even though the flowers are very nice. Let me just show you one more a little bit closer. But of course these ones I will enjoy and maybe cut some for indoors, depending on the weather. Now let's just move over here, and we are already approaching the rose that my husband and I have planted today. So ta-da, there it is, and this is the rose Bewitched. And hello, somebody is just coming in, so I just introduce myself again. My name is Christina, and I'm reporting weekly about my organic garden located in Southern California in San Diego. I was just talking about that I planted a new rose maybe 2 hours ago with my husband, and that's the rose that you can hear, and there in the background posing is our rescue Doberman Skylar. I don't know what he sees down there, but seemed to be interesting. So the rose that you can see here is Bewitched. That is actually another hybrid tea rose. It's a pink flowering hybrid tea rose, and this rose has really absolutely awesome blooms. I really hope to see a few blooms this year still, so keep my fingers crossed. Hopefully it will work. And I just would like to tell you a little bit how I plant a new rose. So first of all, really dig a big hole if you have not good soil like I have. So my holes are usually 3 feet wide and 2 feet deep, and I really excavate the original soil, because we basically, let me just show you here over the fence. Do you see all the stones and this stuff here? This is actually the real soil that we have. This is how our garden would look if I wouldn't improve the soil. So going back, I really excavate the soil for a rose, for a hole 3 feet wide and 2 feet deep, and then I am taking the soil out, put a new soil in, fertilize already relative deep in the ground, and then I place the rose and fill up the soil, and then I put again fertilizer on top. And what you see here actually is not rose fertilizer, but this is alfalfa meal, which is actually a fertilizer as well. So the green small stuff here, this is actually what I forgot today, and I put it on top. Usually I put the fertilizer down, and then I place one more layer of mulch on top of that, so that the fertilizer has immediate contact with the soil and is available very quickly for the rose. So I just hope that again this rose will bloom this year. And just one more trick that I'm doing that I just have figured out lately: when I water in a newly planted rose, I usually use fish fertilizer by now. So this is, I just have the bottle still here. Let me just show you. It's sitting on the rim of our spa. So a little bit dirty, but you can see it's organic Neptune fish fertilizer with seaweed. And this stuff is really, really good. So since it's a liquid fertilizer, this type of fertilizer is immediately available to the rose and will be taken up through the roots immediately, and just helps the rose to get a good start. But again, besides that, I have fertilized the rose. Let me just step back, but also make sure that I'm not stepping in the pool, which is right behind me, just to show you. So I'm standing here, there's my foot, I'm standing at the rim, so it's a little tricky to maneuver here. So this is a rose fertilizer that I'm using. I think this is EB Stone, a rose flower food, and I think that's, Skylar, he's just sticking his nose into my camera. Hey, I don't know what you're doing. Shh. So this fertilizer is a good brand. It really has worked very well in my garden. I just want to say I'm not getting paid to mention it here. I'm just doing it because I know it has worked for me, and if someone is interested, Skylar's just going into the screen of my camera. So, and then right to the side, this is alfalfa meal. It's from the same brand. And alpha meal is supposed to foster the growth of new canes in a rose, which of course we all want. New basal canes from the bottom, so that the rose is renewing itself. And just going back, showing you the rose, I want to mention one more thing. Usually I plant own root roses. So my roses are not grafted on a rootstock, but I get them own root, which means they're growing on their own roots and not on a rootstock like Multiflora or Fortuniana. They're not grafted on a rootstock, and I just prefer that. I think that the roses most of the time are healthier, but definitely Multiflora, I have a suspicion that I get more powdery mildew on roses that are grown on Multiflora rootstock. So I think they are healthier, and they are also, because there is no graft unit that can get injured or anything like that, I think they are also really more sturdy once they are a little bit bigger. But I have to say they come, as teeny tiny plants. I will show you a rose when it comes from the nursery in one of my next scopes. It's so funny. Look at this. Skylar has the opinion that I should play frisbee with him, so he's coming and waiting respectfully, but his intention is very clear, so I should throw the frisbee for him. So I think not now, Skylar, so you just have to wait a little bit. So back to what I said, I prefer own root roses, and they grow very well in my climate, but I have to say, when I get them, I plant them first in 1 gallon size containers because the plants are so little and I can control the moisture level a little bit easier when I have them in a small container. Okay, so come with me and I will carefully walk on the rim of the pool back and show you, as I promised in the title of this scope, and show you some more roses that are blooming in my garden right now. In the moment, at least in the backyard, the roses are blooming sparingly, but they have a bloom here and there. And usually in October we can get still very nice blooms here in Southern California. But because it is so hot and there's so little water, everything is kind of messed up and a little bit different than from what we are used. So the rose that you are seeing here is a shrub rose called Pierre de Ronsard. And you see it's full of flowers. It's a little bit over the peak. Just 2 weeks ago I showed this here on Periscope, and it was really, really a gorgeous, gorgeous rose. And so many flowers, and the flowers are huge. But now it's a little bit at the end of that flush, and who knows, I may get another one. But I'm on the way to show you one rose that's really very rare. And this is, let me just step back a little bit. This is Georgetown tea. This is a tea rose. And tea roses have the ability to flower throughout the winter. So just to clarify, this is a rose in the foreground. In the background there's a huge one, and that is Madame Alfred Carrière. And you see there's one bloom kind of swinging in the wind. This is a huge rose, and unfortunately this lady is making a little bit too much shade for the one that I'm just showing to you and wanted to show you today, Georgetown tea. So this one gets a little bit too much shade, but I hope, if I just show you to the side, we have here a big Strelitzia Nicolai growing, and it's casting a lot of shade, and by limping this up I hope that I get a little bit more sun to the rose, to Georgetown tea, to the rose. Let me just show you the flowers a little bit more closely. So this is kind of a very beautiful strawberry pink, and the flowers look very different from the usual hybrid tea rose that we are used here in America from the florist. But I think they really have their very own charm. Let me just search for another flower with their nodding heads, a little bit old-fashioned. And if the rose, here's another one, just see, they're not so neat like a hybrid tea rose. They have a very different form. But again, this rose has a very pleasing color to me. As I said, the strawberry pink, and it has kind of pink veining, which is probably very hard to see for you in the wind. Just looking for another bloom where it might be a little bit more clear. I think here you can see the veining a little bit better. So it's a delicate rose, and this is really a very rare rose. This one I got as a, I think it was maybe 15-inch high from a friend from the Bay Area, and it's coming from a nursery which is actually has gone out of business, like so many other online rose nurseries, which is very sad. And that nursery, it was vintage gardens. They were really having very, very rare old garden roses. They were specialized on old garden roses. And here again, let me just show you this bud. You see, even the bud form is very different from a hybrid tea rose, and they have these nodding type of behavior. So it's not lack of water; it's just the way the rose is growing. And a lot of people don't like it so much, but I do like it a lot, and I love that this rose is rare and that's growing in my garden. Let me just show you one more bloom. This is almost like a petticoat, ballerina petticoat shape of the flower. So welcome, someone new just came in. Let me tell you, I'm Christina, and I am scoping about my organic garden here in Southern California. And I try to scope weekly and share with you the happenings of the garden, my successes and failures. And today I'm talking about planting a new rose. This is over already, so if you like to see that, please become a follower of mine and watch the replay. So, but I will show you a few more roses in bloom, and let me just walk up to the next that I want to show you. And we will also stop at my irises, the iris rhizomes that I planted a few weeks ago, and I have made it a habit each week to look with my Periscope viewers at the irises. So we're coming closer to the area, and unfortunately our air condition is on. I don't know why. I hope it stops after a while. So here are my 3 iris rhizomes that I think I planted 3 weeks ago, and you can see they really make new leaves. So this one is fine. This seems to be a strong variety. It's called Best Bet, and I had this iris in my garden maybe 2 years ago, and the flower is really absolutely beautiful. So the photo is not an exaggeration on the label for the plant. So then we go a little bit over here. This variety is Clarence. This is also growing, not as vigorously, but you see it's producing new leaves, so I think this will make it too. And this one here is Rio Vista, I think. This name I always have trouble to remember. The new leaves also look good. But what I did notice with irises, you really have to be careful and not overwater them in the beginning. So that's really something that you have to pay attention to if you grow irises from rhizomes. So since we are here in the area, I just want to show you one rose that is blooming very beautifully here today. And it hasn't bloomed for quite a while for me. So this is Madame Caroline Test 2. Let me just hold the flower, it's just a little windy, just going out of focus. So this is Madame Caroline Test 2, and you also see an old-fashioned rose. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's also one of the early hybrid tea roses. But the breeding at that point was still very different from what we see today in the hybrid tea roses. So as you may already have noticed, I really have a fondness for the old garden roses, old varieties and rare varieties. And this is definitely some rose that I really, really like. And just here, I can also show you, I don't know if you can see it, but this is a rose. This is called Nimbus. This is not an old rose. I think it's from the 50s. It's hard to see yet, but this will become a brownish pink bloom. So I just hope that I can show it to you soon. Very, very unusual color and very interesting rose. So let's go back and have a look at just one more or 2 more roses actually that I wanted to present to you today. So I'm excited to show you Neptune today. Neptune, you see, very elegant. It's a lavender colored rose with kind of a darker edge. I think that's an absolutely beautiful rose, very strong fragrance, and pretty healthy for a lavender colored rose. I don't know why, but lavender colored roses are very often plagued by diseases, but this one is pretty good so far, and it's also relatively willing to bloom. This one I'm testing. I'm having it planted in a terracotta container, so to see if the rose is getting illnesses and if it's growing vigorously or not. And I have to say, nowadays, if a rose is showing a lot of disease problems in the container already, I won't even plant it out into the garden. This is just too much work for me, and since I'm gardening organically, and I'm not only gardening organically, I also don't spray. The roses really need to be reasonable healthy. Not completely, but reasonable healthy. So I hope you like this one. One more time, this is Neptune. This is a modern hybrid tea. Let me just hold it a little bit more steady one more time for you so that you can appreciate the beautiful bloom. This is really stunning, a stunning rose. So let's just walk over here again. There's Skylar, our Doberman, always keeping me company in the garden. You want to come sniff the roses with me as well? Let me just show you one beautiful bloom that I spotted when I was starting the tour. This is overall, you see there are not many blooms there. This is a David Austin rose. It's heritage. It's humongous here, way bigger than David Austin, the rose breeder, is claiming in his rose catalog the rose will get. I guess it's at least 5 or 6 feet wide, and I would say 6-7 feet high. So you always have to be prepared with these babies that they totally get out of bounds when they start growing. And the bloom that I want to show you is this one. Isn't this pretty? This very, very pale apricot flower. This is really a gorgeous rose. Her only problem is that the petals shed very quickly, but otherwise beautiful bloom, very, very strong citrusy fragrance. So a lovely rose, but I have to say it has mildew problems in my garden, so I don't know if I really would recommend this rose. So we are at the end of the tour for today. Let me just show it to you one more time. I wish everyone in America a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and everyone in the world a good start of the new week. So if you liked what you have been seeing, please follow me on Periscope. I'm scoping weekly, most of the times on Saturday or Sunday, but I also will try to scope at other times of the week. Thanks for watching. I hope I see you next time. Bye bye.